Welcome to the Bible Forum. We're here together. My name is Warren Sprouse. We're here every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m., even on Super Bowl Sundays. And we do this for you. We look at life through a biblical lens. We generally solve all the world's problems in 2 hours or less. Tonight is no exception. Tonight we have a number of things that we're going to be talking about in harmony with the current events that are occurring around and about, but we're also going to be talking about the Bible Institute. If you haven't signed up for the Bible Institute, you need to do that. You can go to the website, BibleInstituteofCharleston.org. There you can watch a sample of a lesson. You can also watch an introductory video, and you can click whatever the links are and do whatever you have to do to make this a reality. We send you the lessons, one each week, usually Monday mornings. There are 5 or 6 videos per course, and every Monday you get another one until they're done. There's also a test if you want to take it. There's a paper to write if you want to write it. There's required reading if you want to read it. If you do all of those things, you get credit. You don't do those things, you just get smart. You'll just know more about the Bible than you knew before, and you'll probably know more than you thought you could know. You also need to sign up for our email. I send out an email every week. It was a little different this week, a little different format. This is what it looks like when it comes in your inbox. We don't sell your email addresses. We don't give them away. We don't misuse them. We usually just send this out once a week, let you know what we're doing. I want you to be engaged. I want you to check out each of the websites along the way too, and look at the blogs. Sign up for them if there's a way to do that. We have a counseling blog, trybiblicalcounseling.net. We have a godly living, Christian living kind of thing. It's called livinggodly.net, oddly enough. We have something for the world at large as it's moving itself to conclusion. That's called theviewfromzoar.com. We also have the BibleForum.net, and we have BibleInstituteofCharleston.org. There's always something you can get involved in, something you can do. We also have on the Bible Forum website, which is where you are now, if you're not just watching on a YouTube, there is a place, I think it says resources. You click that and you use a couple of things on there. You can buy my book. The book is entitled Breaking Out. I think there's another, something else is advertised on there. But soon to be another book. We have another book coming. This is what the cover looks like. I designed that cover. It's called Frontal Attack: Satan and the Church Through the Ages. It is I don't know what a compendium. I don't know. It's like a historical walk, a theologically historical walk through the eras of the church, beginning at about 200 or 300 A.D. and walking your way right up until where we are, to show the evolution of the doctrines, to show the attacks of the enemy at the church and what they were like and how they were answered, and to demonstrate how Satan has attacked the church. And I'll give you a hint. He's not very creative. Not because he's not creative, he doesn't have to be. He seems to attack the same way all the time, and we fall for it the same way all the time. So, got a gal, a listener, a viewer, one of your compadres who is working through editing. Some others of you have sent me suggestions. I've taken them all, and I've made all the corrections. This gal's on, I think, chapter 4 at this point. There's only 5. It's about 80 pages. I sit and read it periodically. I have it on 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I'll go through it every once in a while just to make sure the flow is right, or maybe I'm looking for something. And it takes me about a half hour, 40 minutes maybe, to read the whole book. It's not a hard read. However, I'm not reading it for content. If you start reading through it and it'll stop, wait a minute, and you want to look something up, it could take you days. It's that kind of a book. But I want you to get right now. I think it's priced at about $6.95. It might be a little more, depends on how all this works out. But if you are a regular contributor to the Bible Forum, you'll just get one. When they're ready, I will send you one. And they will already be on their way when I announce that it's ready. So you don't have to do anything. If you'd like to get a free book, go to the PayPal, click sign up to be a regular donor. It doesn't take much, $25, $30 a month, whatever you can afford. We've got folks that given a whole different kind of ranges. Last month, things were a little better. Last month, the ministry paid for itself. I think that's the first time in I don't know how long. We need a little extra. The little extra's for me, so that I don't have to go out and get a job. If I have to get a job, I can't write. I can't work as hard as I do or put the time in on the Bible Forum or on the Institute. There's just a lot of things I can't do. I know you realize or think that I have resigned my church. I'm retired. I just sit around and I watch television. I eat bonbons. But I'm sitting in this chair in this office for 40 or 50 hours every week, working, doing stuff. And that's when I'm not having to do the obligatory kinds of things. So it will be a hit. We've got another month or so, and then I've got to do the financial evaluation to see just how it's going. But we need between $500 and $700 extra for me to make this work. Anyway, we have a lot of things to talk about today. We're going to talk about Islam. You know, your president was on television this week. He went to a Muslim mosque in Baltimore, and he said some very interesting things. Did you hear what he said? He was solicitous. He was encouraging. I give him credit. But he was trying to encourage these folks not to pay a whole lot of attention to Christian America as they are critical of Islam. You know, people are saying bad things about Islam, and those that are sensitive to these sorts of things are imposing upon those statements criticisms of the individuals within it. And Islam is a peace-loving, peaceable, whatever, and don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain kind of a thing. Went to a prayer breakfast a couple of days later, said the same kind of a thing. Well, it tickles a bone in me. It just pushes at something in me. I wrote a blog about it this week. I want to share it with you because we have all these black Americans gravitating toward Islam. And they are doing it and looking back at non-Muslims and Christians particularly with disdain. You know, you people are, it's like, excuse me, Islam is the major slaver of the world. For however long they've been around, 1,800 years? They've been slavers. More black folks have been enslaved by Islam, either slaves to them or sold. We had, I forget how many, there were 11 million slaves came across from West Africa during that time, 600-year period. We got 5% of them. And they were all sent here, sold by Muslims. And the president is pictured standing in the doorway at a slave market in West Africa. The door is called the door was it The Door to Nowhere or something like that? And he has this forlorn look. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Islam did that. Yeah, we bought them. Islam did that. Less than 5% of our population bought those slaves. But the whole world is down on America because we have a slave history. There are 25 million slaves, black slaves, in the Middle East right now. Nobody talks about it. Got a problem. Got an article. We're going to talk about it. There is a coming world war. You know it's going to happen. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that this world is headed to some kind of a conflagration. We're all worried about World War III. Nobody wants to fight World War III. The devastation is going to be absolutely off the chart until you look at it. All of the liberal, Democrat, whatever presidents have tried to gut the military. They don't think we need to have it. And the conservatives are always out there trying to say, no, we need the military and you need to put that back. When anything happens, we've got to have. But when you look at what the military strategists are really talking about, they're not talking about big armies. China has the largest of the sophisticated, well, I don't even know how to word it, because they don't have the most number of people. But they have about 3.5 million. We have 3 million. Russia has about the same amount. North and South Korea have double that. But they're doing a specialized kind of a thing. Pakistan and Vietnam have larger armies than we do. But they're not high-tech kind of places. The technology is really what's going to fight the next war. And you think, I don't know when that's going to happen or how that's going to work. Well, this weekend, Korea was scheduled, and I don't know if they actually did it, North Korea was scheduled to fire a test rocket. They were testing the placement of a medium-range ICBM into an orbit of about 250 miles up. They were aiming at the southern hemisphere. Can you say EMP, electromagnetic pulse? We're going to talk about that. What is that all about? What's the fallout? What would happen to you if this were to occur? And our government has already tested it, so they know. We're also going to talk about the national debt. The president went on television this week to praise the economy. It's rebounded a little bit. There's more jobs this month or quarter or whatever. And he finished up by saying something to the effect that America's incomparable. We're top of the heap. Nobody's doing better than us. We're number one. I hollered out loud. I was sitting watching the news, and my wife looked at me funny. I had just read that day that the United States was ranked sixth. I don't know which way you're looking at. In terms of the world's economies. Not so much in what we have, but in the way it's working. And he's saying we're number one, nobody's doing better than us. It wasn't 2 days later we learned that we're actually number 11. How can we be number one? We have a $19 trillion deficit. What is that like? That's like the average householder owing 6 times their total net worth. Your house, your income, your insurance, everything you might have that's of value, multiply that by 6, and that's your credit card debt. What are we doing? Well, it's really not a big deal. It is a big deal. If it were a household owner, they'd be broke. They'd be out of business. Nobody would give them anything. If they were in business and they were operating like this, they'd call it a Ponzi scheme. And who is carrying that load? We always look at China. China is carrying 3.5% of it. They are our largest creditor. Well, who's carrying the rest of that? You probably know, but we're going to look at it. And then we're going to go and look a little bit at doctrine. The doctrine of salvation, and the doctrine that governs this whole concept of law or grace. Law or grace. Why do so many people get that wrong? Why is it so many Christians can't understand the difference between and how it works? Do you realize how many church people and real Christians are actually legalists? And all the good that they're doing is wood, hay, and stubble. It's not amounting to anything. And of course, then there are those who are not real Christians, and they think if they do enough Bible kinds of things, and God will think, yeah, I'll explain that. That's a doctrinal issue that we want to look at. Just this week, Japan condemned the North Koreans for the launch of this space rocket. They were sending out ships into the China Sea, south of Japan and off the coast of Korea, because they're not quite sure what they're doing. A ballistic missile from North Korea, I mean, that has just all kinds of implications. But it was on Tuesday that North Korea notified the International Maritime Organization that they were going to be putting up this satellite. But everybody knows what it is. Have you heard anything about this Zika virus? I really want to write about the Zika virus because it's one of those fascinating things. If you look at the map, you've seen the map, maybe they put it up in the news to show you where it is, and you look at South America, and of course you got Brazil, a huge Brazil, and it's in red because Zika's there, and then over west of that and north, Colombia, and what the other one is up there, they're red, and then moving into Central America and Mexico, that's all red. Why? Well, I think that the reason, that it's moving up and it's into Mexico is because of the massive amount of people that are on the move from in South America. And it's interesting to me that when the Cubans came over and started making that trek up in through Mexico, that's when we heard about this. I mean, did he come from Cuba? We don't know. But everybody's going crazy about the Zika virus, and they claim that the only people that really are affected by it are babies. And that's only in that first trimester, and just a couple of months in the beginning of a pregnancy, usually when women don't know they're pregnant. And the great concern is all of these young adults who are having sex, and they might not know they're pregnant, or some other factor, and they're really trying to get the word out to protect yourself, don't do this, back off, and it's became a major event only because of our immorality. Only because we want to have sex with no consequences. We had AIDS. AIDS was an epidemic because of homosexual sex. Oh, I don't say that. I can remember people calling me on the radio, screaming and hollering at me. You don't know what you're talking about. But I was there. I heard it. I watched it. I saw it. That's what it was. And it continued because we refused to deal with it as a disease. It was a social problem. It was a politically hot potato. And we couldn't do what we were supposed to do. We isolate people who are that contagious. We did that with typhus. We isolate people. Couldn't do that. We had to isolate the population. And that's what I'm reminded of when I see the Zika virus. I want to look into that a little bit more. Got a controversy at Wheaton College. Wheaton College is used to be a conservative Christian college. They fired a professor, a teacher, somebody, because she posted a photograph, actually a couple of photographs of herself on a Facebook wearing a Muslim hijab, traditional covering women wear in Muslim countries, and she got fired. And some of the people are up in arms, alumna, people who give money, and they are saying if you don't put her back in, we're not going to give you any more money. And it's interesting. The college had to go online or go public, and it said it's not because she wore that garb, it's what she said about God that made the difference. She didn't think the way she was, her doctrine is not right. That's what's really going on here. It's not got anything really to do with what she said or what she wore. She's making the equation, the equality of Allah, the pagan moon god, with Elohim, Jehovah, the one true God of the universe. And she says they're the same. Well, how do you teach in a Christian college when you don't know who God is? And that's why they fired her. Isn't that amazing? Her argument, or some of the critics' arguments, is, well, the Pope, Pope Francis said we all worship the same God. He don't know. He has no idea what's in that Bible. He needs to take my Bible course. The European Union is back at it again, trying to establish a European Union army. Back in December, German finance minister proposed that the EU must have a common military instead of these 28 national armies. And I think it's being pushed now because of all of these immigrants coming out of Syria and North Africa and wherever. The crisis, they're calling it, Middle Eastern and African crisis. In the end, he says, our goal must be a common European army. Can you say end time scenario? We're just reading right into that sort of thing. We have a lot of other things that I want to talk about. I don't know what you want to talk about. You can tell me, you can text me and let me know. You can send me an email, whatever you want to do, and we'll talk about that. But for now, sit back, pay no attention to the Super Bowl that's on in the TV next to you, and pay attention to me for the next hour and a half. Sit tight.